When we think of the real world, we tend to think of that which is, most likely, should we say, that which is uh, visually extended and or that which is tangibly impenetrable. So, for instance, something is real if it takes up space in my visual perception, and or if, say, I cannot pass my hand through it, I cannot squeeze my hand around it, such as concerning a stone. Right? Now, to that world of the tangibly impenetrable and the visually extended, apply a number of qualities, such as smell, such as taste, or may apply, such as sound, which we also take to be at least associated with the real world, depending on the philosophy that is prescribed to, and also attributes such as space and time. Something is spatially removed from me, be it a foot, a mile, is temporally removed from me, such as a century ago, yesterday, the future, and such. And that is the arena by way of which we normatively attempt aspiration, meaning that's the arena within which our activity is usually manifested. So, for instance, I think that in order to, you know, live life, I have to live it somewhere in a particular spatial setting, in a particular temporal setting, and that is what is most characteristic of my life. I can go somewhere new by traveling, by taking the plane, by taking the train, etc. I can kind of go into the future by living longer, hopefully, and such. And yet we see that there's another view of reality that might be perhaps more useful. And that would be one which has reality be that which such features stand for, as opposed to those features in and of their own self, at least aside from anything else. As a fitting analogy, a text of a book could be considered. We say that would one attempt to derive the reality of the book simply from the consideration and purely from the consideration of the text, that would be a fool's errand. I open a book in a language that I do not speak, right? Let's say I don't speak Spanish, I don't speak Chinese, I don't speak English. I open up a book in some such language, and then I attempt to derive its reality, and I attempt to derive emotion and feeling and adventure and all kinds of things just from looking at the text. And if it doesn't work, right, I see other people are reading in rapt enjoyment, they're interested. Well, why is it not working for me? Well, it must be because there's something about the letters that I don't see. I need to look closer, right? Or these little calligraphy, these little marks on the paper or on the screen if it's an electronic book. Right, let me zoom in. Let me use a magnifying glass to look closer. Oh, that doesn't work. Let me put it under a microscope. Doesn't work. I need a more powerful microscope. No, let me do a chemical, you know, thing operation on the paper, on the pulp, reduce it to pulp, this or that, separate the elements. See that none of that would work vis-a-vis the end of experiencing the book and enjoying the book. There's only one such way, and that would be a way that could be called the interpretive way. I have to learn the language, and then these little marks on paper or on the screen will stand for realities that are not themselves in the paper, and that can never be, or in the marks, and that can never, on principle, be derived from a closer consideration and examination of the marks and of the paper. So we see that that does seem to be a fitting analogy for life at large. Right? What we experience with our senses can be profitably taken as signs for realities that themselves cannot be seen. What are some examples? Uh, think about the most meaningful things in life, in human life, or in many human lives, not in each human life. For example, something such as a child, right? A baby. Imagine trying to explain the meaning of a baby to, let's say, an animal that cannot understand that. Obviously, animals have their own babies and they seem to understand that just fine. But let's say, to a Komodo dragon or a great white shark explain the value of a human baby. Hey, shark. No, right? There's no way to explain it. There's no way whatsoever. Imagine somebody has the wrong interpretive lens and they think that everything is composed out of little molecules and that's reality. And they try to understand what a baby is to a mother by looking closer at the baby with a microscope, taking a sample of the DNA, the skin, or something like this. It would never work. There's only one way to understand what a baby means to a mother, and that's to understand it. The baby, as in the little bundle of joy that I can hold and pinch the cheeks of which, is a sort of sign. It's like a word on paper that stands for something. But the reality itself, the reality of a human life, the reality of love, of growth, of development, of care, that cannot be found by looking closer at the baby, right, with a magnifying glass again or anything like that. It's not there. It's not in the senses. It can't be touched. It can't be smelt. It can't be seen. Other things can be smelt by way of the baby, but not that. You get the idea. Say something such as an ambition or an aspiration that a person has that is certainly real to him or her. How can I see it? I can't see it. I can see signs of it. Right? Perhaps the business that a person builds, that's a sign. Not perhaps, certainly, it's a sign of someone's ambition. We drive around, we see all these businesses, these places of work, right? That those all can be interpreted as signs for people's dreams, for people's ambitions, which cannot be seen with our eyes. A college diploma, let's say, to somebody that really dreamt of going to school, finally got it. Imagine trying to understand that again by looking at the diploma in and of its own self, without trying to interpret it and understand it as standing for something. Oh, again, let me magnify the pulp. Never going to happen. So we see that it seems to be so across the board. A home, for instance, is not anything that you can touch with your hands. It's not something that you can see with your eyes or smell or taste somehow, maybe lick the walls or whatnot. A home is an intelligible reality. We could say it's an idea, but by the term idea ought not be meant anything that is demoted in reality. Right? It's just an idea. There's nothing just about it. It's a reality, but it's just a reality that cannot be seen with one's eyes or touched with one's hands. What we see with our eyes and touch with our hands, if we have any eyes and hands and/or, would be the sign for that reality. Oh, that's my home. But the home is not that, right? For example, I can go up in a hot air balloon and see my home get smaller and smaller. And there's, depending on how detailed our attention is, we can note these increments every, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, depending on the speed of the hot air balloon. The home in its visual aspect changes, gets smaller and smaller. So does that mean every 10 or 15 seconds we have a different home? No, but the whole time we can tell, that's my home, that's my home, that's my home. But the image changes. You get the idea? So it's not the image that's my home. Otherwise, I'd have many homes by many images from each distance. I have one home. Each image stands for it. I could have a million selfies taken of me. Would I want to do that for some reason? And each of these selfies would stand for something that is not itself the selfie. There's not a million me's then. There's one me, and that's a sign for me. We get the idea. So that would seem to be a fruitful and appropriate and correct way to interpret our experience. Reality itself, intelligible reality, is built up by way of the activity of mind, by way of the activity of maturation, by way of the activity of will, emotion, and such. For example, aspiring towards worthy objectives, building relationships, building a home, building a family. All of these are realities, and they're arguably much more real than anything that can be touched or felt or smelt, and so forth. And that which can be touched, felt, smelt, and so forth are but signs for greater realities transcendent of them. Just as words in a book are signs for ideas, concepts, realities, such as cannot be found in the words themselves. So practical application of that would be to cease looking for our happiness in the tangibly impenetrable and in the visually extended. Oftentimes, we think, happiness is somewhere there. Right? Maybe I'm literally driving around looking for happiness. Maybe it's in that little nook, in that little corner that I haven't explored of my neighborhood, of somewhere over the rainbow in the different country. If I only travel to the right place, if I only get to the right beach, right? Maybe if I only rearrange the furniture in my home the right way, I'll have happiness. That is erroneous on principle, not because it has no value how things in our home are arranged and because travel has no value. Just like a book, how the words are arranged certainly has value, and the aesthetics of the book and the beauty of the cover, all that has its place, right? But the real reality isn't what the words stand for. And the real reality is what the content of sense perception stands for. And that content can be developed and can only be developed by way of individual maturation of mind, of psyche, to so say, meaning psychology, of inward development. That's the only way. And then that which is around us can stand for increasingly rich realities. So we can consider it. Thank you for listening.